So I got like a bunch of short prompts that I just want to go through. My main concern is, so I'm not really good at writing essays. I'm pretty terrible at it, actually. So a lot of times it's hard for me to be very clear and concise with what I want to type out. Like, I think I have a relatively good grasp of what I want to say in my head, but putting it into words and making it flow well,
Okay.
sometimes that's an issue for me. Yeah, so I heard that you make everyone who comes here like read their own essays.
Yeah, that's usually what we do if you feel comfortable doing that, but
Yeah.
if you don't, then I can read it aloud or I can read it silently. It's really whatever you feel
No, I
comfortable
think
with.
it's best if I read out loud.
Okay,
'Cause I'm
alright.
proofreading. I
Yeah.
can't. It's really hard to do it by myself.
Right, yeah, it kind of helps when you read it aloud just to like get out of your own head and kind of...
Do you have a trash
hear
can,
it.
by the way? I gotta spit out.
Yeah, there's right over there.
Okay. All right. Let me see if some of these are repeats. Yeah. Okay. I start with this is Columbia secondary.
Okay.
All right. Main one is just a list, so I don't think we really need to go through that.
Okay.
I think this is pretty straightforward too. It's
Okay.
just all right. Yeah. So let's start with this one.
Okay.
The prompt is, what challenges do you expect to arise from living and working in a complex urban environment? How will you meet them? And I think it'd be most helpful if I would tell you what my answer would be, and then we can see if this
If it
actually matches up with that.
Okay.
Do you think that'd be
Yeah,
a
I think that's a
thing?
good strategy.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I talked to one of my old neighbor's mom, who's a pathologist in Detroit, and she said like the biggest issues of working in the field of medicine in an urban environment is obviously a lot of the people are very sick. A lot of them don't have a lot of resources, whether that's a car to get to the hospital, time to take off of work, or insurance or money to pay for the treatments, right? So you've got a lot of sick people, and when people don't get treatment often, routine checkups, they often come with like a lot of really weird and uncommon diseases.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So in an urban place, got a lot sicker patients, a lot weirder illnesses, and a lot of the patients, they're either on Medicare, which reduces the amount of money you get seen per patient, or sometimes they don't have insurance at all. The hospital just has to eat the cost of treating the patient. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's in terms of practicing medicine. And I think from living in a city, or like a really big city, because Columbia's in New York, I'm sure you know that, yeah.
That's
But,
okay.
So I lived in Shanghai for a little bit, a couple of years, like a super big city. And I think obvious things are like traffic is awful, right? I heard the trains in New York are pretty awful too, right? They break down a lot.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah. Everything's like super expensive. I visited there once. I was just like, wow, this is like crazy expensive. Yeah, so cost of living, definitely a big one. Transportation, being able to own your own car if you want one, it'll be expensive to find parking there. If you can even do that. What else? Commute times could be an issue, but I think they have dorms on site. And I guess just a lot of noise and a lot of pollution. It's like dirty in the city. So I really think those are my two biggest concerns about living in the city are not being able to find like a quiet place to relax, and also the cost.
Okay.
Those are the two biggest things. All right. So let's go through it.
Okay.
All right, so I want to read the prompt again. What challenges do you expect to arise from living and working in a complex urban environment? How will you meet them? I said, as a former resident of Shanghai, also, do you think it's okay to use conjunctions?
Like contraction? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. I think so, just because it seems like you have like very limited word count.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good way just to kind of save room and like use more important words. So I think that's fine.
Okay, cool. I'm accustomed to the hustle and bustle of an urban environment. The noise, difficulties with transportation, and less than clean city environment are all familiar to me. Yet the opportunity to live in New York City is appealing to me as I enjoy the freedom and abundance of entertaining activities the library city offers. Additionally, my time in Taiwan, Russia, and Shanghai has prepared me to live and work beside people of many different cultures. I forgot to mention that. Obviously, like urban city, a lot of different people. In terms of housing, I understand that Columbia offers dormitories for its medical students. I expect one of the more difficult aspects of attending Columbia PNS would be working and learning in the urban hospitals. In my time volunteering in Detroit, I expect to find sicker patients and more uncommon illnesses due to a lack of resources such as transportation, insurance, and health education. Although urban hospitals will undoubtedly have more difficult cases, I'm confident that the medical training or how I can contribute to the diversity of the student body at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons. This specifically, how I can contribute to the diversity of the student body.
Yeah.
Or maybe I could say something like how I can contribute to the diversity or how is what I can bring to the Columbia, University.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, because I think that the phrasing is a little awkward there. You could say something like, these experiences with various cultures allow me to bring like a degree of diversity, or enable me to contribute to the diverse student body at Columbia, or something like that. So it's more active, if you have that, like a verb there, like enable or allow, or something like that.
Okay. So would you say like enable me to contribute to, again, it's contribute to what? Contribute to the diversity, contribute to the student body, contribute to, I don't want to say contribute to the culture. That's
right.
So cliche, yeah. Enable me to.
I think you could say to the diversity, or even to the diverse student body, or I guess it comes down to kind of like what you think that you're like giving to the program almost, if you feel like you're adding something to the students themselves, or just to like the identity of the student body, I guess, you know?
Just remembrance. Various cultures. Enable me to, definitely enable me to whatever, I'll figure it out later.
Maybe even like add a different perspective to the student body, or add a different like almost like layer of diversity, something like that, like a different dimension, something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at.
So could I say something like enable me to bring my own perspective of diversity to Columbia University?
Yeah, that works.
That'd be okay?
Yeah.
But we can bring... I think contribute or bring would be better. So I think contribute is more active, but I don't want it to seem like a little pompous. Like,
Right.
This is a special thing.
Yeah. Well, contribute seems more of like you're sharing something with them almost, So I don't think it's pompous.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Contribute. I like the word share too. So I'm gonna contribute or share. Okay. So back to the first paragraph. Whew. It is like, I did not know how to combine one thing with the other. I had like 3 things going on, and I did not really know how to transition and like, again, bring it all back together, right? So that's why I try to use the sentence. Although I have since left these countries, that's what I try to do to tie it all together. But
Right. I mean, you could even say something like, now that I live, in the United States, or now that you could say something like that. But I really like the last sentence, with the Russian. I really like that. It's
Yeah,
great.
like
Yeah.
I actually kept on doing that. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, my bad. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me talk about this sentence. Okay, so there I visited. This is just like a. Do you think this, even if this was worded well, do you think it'd be necessary to, you know, keep in here? Because I don't know, Taiwan. Like I lived there for 4 summers, so probably 2.5 months each summer, times 4, 10 months, almost a year. Like a significant amount of my life I've spent there. Yeah, I wanna say of like how being in Taiwan taught me a lot about my heritage, the culture of my parents. They were born there. But I don't really know how to say that succinctly. Yeah, I don't really like this sentence either. So get rid of it. That's bad. So I try to introduce it with this.
Right. And then I think if you wanted a sentence about like learning about your heritage, or like getting those experiences, I think that would be a good sentence.
Okay. Do a heritage. Heritage. Sentence. Yeah, I'll add that in later.
Okay.
Do you think it's okay just to say after I add a sentence there about Taiwan to say during my upperclassmen years of high school I moved to Shanghai, China, a country I'd never visited before? Is that too like abrupt of a change? Or is that alright, do you think?
I don't think so. As long as you kind of, in the heritage sentence, I would maybe talk about, like, if you could maybe say something about, like, your childhood, or even connect it to your parents, like, about them growing up or something like that. And then you're kind of moving, through, like, the course of your life. And then it makes sense to go on to your high school years.
Okay, definitely. Alright. School years with my swim team. Yeah, okay. And so these next 2 sentences, my new high school teachers, I kind of just list things. I see this now after reading it out loud, that I'm kind of just listing things of how I've been exposed to these different cultures, but not necessarily what I've learned from them.
Right.
Yeah. So just like when you say, why do I stay in touch with my high school friends? Yeah. So do you think this would be enough to justify these 2 sentences? Or to say why these 2 sentences are significant? Adding in a sentence about what being exposed to all these different cultures and,
Yeah.
judgment offense.
Yeah, I think even if you could, like, having a sentence about, like, that experience rather than just, like, listing what it was, but if you had, something that really stuck out to you, like a small, like, instance, even about, like, meeting someone who didn't speak the same language as you, or just, coming into contact with that, would explain that. And then also, it's like getting back to like what you said, what you learned from it, rather than just like, oh, it was there, really like what you took from it.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. Okay, so after, maybe before the sentence or after the sentence, adding a different explanation of why this is significant, and then, alright, so this is another abrupt change, right? This is alright. After my sophomore year in college, I taught English in the outskirts of Moscow for 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's a decent transition.
Okay. So, I don't really know what to add to that though, because I was exposed to Russian culture. but in terms of what it taught me, it's just another thing that taught me to interact with other people from different cultures. You know.
Right.
Should I do another justification or what it taught me sentence?
Yeah, I think even like if you had like a comma and then just maybe like even said something like I taught English in the outskirts of Moscow, Russia for 10 weeks, comma, I'm trying to have like just kind of like a little description, like adjusting to, you know what I'm saying?
Where I learned to maybe like live and live in a foreign environment and work with people.
Yeah, like
from all different cultures.
Right, like having to like teach them, you know, and like being exposed to like, you know, these people who are looking at you to teach them this new language,
they're like
kind
kids.
of.
Yeah, they're definitely they didn't have too much culture just yet.
Right. But even so, just feeling like if you felt like responsibility for having to like teach them, you know, English and like feeling like you were making a difference in their life, which I'm sure you were. So that could be something just to kind of add in there, not necessarily saying like, oh, you know, like I changed their lives, but just, you know, saying kind of like explaining that a little bit more. But I don't think you would need like a whole other sentence.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so just a comma, that thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to the second paragraph. Mm-hmm. If all of this was very good, let's pretend that it's a very solid first paragraph. Do you think this last paragraph would be able to sum up everything of relating diversity to medicine, mm-hmm. and then also saying, summing up the entire thing of saying these experiences are how I can, contribute to diversity and also be a better medical student.
Yeah, I definitely like the connection, and I think it's a really good thing that you connected it back to medicine and talked about, what you're contributing and like why you're a good candidate for medical school. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely important to do.
Okay. Okay. Do you think I should add something in when I say like these experiences? Should I say experiences or interactions? What do you think would be better?
I like interactions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Because that seems more like personal to me and more of the fact that you put in the effort kind of to do that.
Yeah. It's interactions with various cultures.
And I would just say although I have since left these countries, maybe to say, maybe that might be a good place to say like now that I live in the US, because like this is saying I have since left these countries. It's kind of a transition from the beginning of this paragraph where you're not talking about the other countries anymore, but you did appear. So that might be a little confusing of a jump. So maybe you could say, maybe that might be the place where to say like now that I live in the US.
Okay.
Or like even though I now live in the US, I still carry my like foreign experiences of other cultures within me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think I should add the explanations that I was going to put up in the first paragraph here? Or do you think this is fine here?
I think that's fine here just because you're trying to get more to the point of like how you can contribute and why like you're a good candidate, like I said. So I think that's fine. I think it just needed a bit more like smoother transition there. But I think that the explanations go better up here.
Okay. Although I have since left this country, I hear these cultures. Oh, I'm thinking about. I feel like I have to add something to tie medicine into these experiences, right? Because I want to say that, these experiences will help me deal with, not deal with, but, care for patients of a lot of different cultures or work with,
Right.
other physicians of a lot of different cultures. Where do you think that'd be a good spot to stick it in this last paragraph? Do you think I could put it right here? I carry my experiences of their cultures with me, and these cultures will help me work with and care for doctors and patients from many different backgrounds or something like that.
Yeah, I think you could do that. Mm-hmm.
We out of time?
Nope, we have like 5 minutes. You're good.
Okay. And do you think this, by saying that, do you think this last sentence would be necessary at all? If I'm saying these cultures will prepare me for a future career in medicine, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that seems like it almost trumps the idea of, I can contribute to diversity.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could, if you wanted to, you could combine them and say, like, it'll allow me to contribute to diversity and to prepare for my career as a doctor, or you could just leave out the diversity and just focus on your future career.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I agree with you that talking about diversity after that seems a little bit lesser.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you notice any spelling errors or grammar mistakes that I didn't catch?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I was concerned about this sentence, more specifically. Is this comma supposed to be here? And does the second part of the sentence sound awkward?
So I think the comma could go there, or like you don't need it there, but it does kind of serve as a way to slow your reader down a little bit and allow them to take a breath. So I think it's fine to leave it if you wanted to, and then having some perspective of the cultures in the diverse population. I think that the having some perspective of the culture it's a little bit awkward sounding, but I get what you're trying to say. Maybe like having experience. Like having experience or like exposure to cultures within a diverse population of patients increases this understanding.
Would you split this up into 2 sentences? This is a really long sentence. Maybe an important part of being a physician is being able to understand the challenges of patients. A challenge. Would you say a patient?
You can.
Yours. Would you recommend using second person in med school essay? That'd be too weird.
That seems a little strange. I think you might want to stay away from that. But I think you could say the challenges a patient faces or the challenges patients face. Either or. I think works. But I also think that you could split the two up if you wanted to, or they could be one sentence, but I kind of like them being two.
You like you?
Yeah, kind of. I think it breaks it up. And then you could start the second sentence with, start out with the having some, or you could say, this understanding increases with exposure to cultures within a diverse population of patients, or, that way you have some options for the second sentence of how you want to word it.
Yeah, I like that word exposure. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go to the fishbowl on this now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Is there a maximum amount of appointments you can set up within a week?
No, I think it's just once a day that you're limited to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't think it's limited weekly. But yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was great to meet you, Chris. Good luck.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll obviously feel free to come back. You can make another appointment with me or with someone else or anything.
I'm actually gonna try all the paperwork. I don't want you to be offended if you see me with someone else.
I won't be offended.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good to experience with other people, because everyone else has their own style and everything. So find who works best for you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.